There's so many microbrand and Kickstarter brands these days, we don't look at 90% of these watches. Lack of quality, zero brand recognition, and designs that look like my 2-year-old niece came up with. For any watch to do well, you either need to have a unique offering or you need to have superior build quality. I mean, how else are you going to make me want to buy your watch over that new camera that I probably don't need? Well, in a perfect world, we could have both, but that's not the case. With that said, today's video is sponsored by CODE41, who also lent in this X41 for me to check out. And just to be clear, what's being sponsored is my time spent in filming and editing these videos, not my opinions. Because if something sucks, I'm going to tell you to spaz and ketchup on it, wrap it up in duct tape, and throw it out the window. So yes, this is the X41, which has opened for pre-order and claims to offer fine watchmaking at a competitive price. We'll take a close look at this, but first, let's get the specifications out. The X41 has a 42mm titanium case, 11.7mm thickness, 50mm lug-to-lug, 24mm lug width, flat sapphire crystal and case back, 50m water resistance, in-house automatic movement that beats at 28,800 beats per hour, and comes at a price point of $5,390. This particular one is a prototype, so there may be some slight changes and improvements made to the production model. Any issues or notes in this video has been informed to CODE41 to address in their final model, so please do keep this in mind. This is not a small watch, it's practically all dial just to show off that skeletonized dial and face, or lack of face in this case. But visibility is not an issue since all three hands are accented in red. Lumed hour marks are also found on the outer circumference that stand out enough for quick timed reading and enjoyable nighttime viewing. A minor note here is, although the hands do fit in with the aesthetic, I would have liked to see some added depth opposed to just being flat and brushed. Now obviously the point of skeletonization is to show off the finishing of the movement, otherwise it would be pointless to have it hollowed out, right? Clearly, but you'd be surprised at how many brands do this just for the hell of it. The issue is, if the finishing sucks, then you might as well include poor finishing in these specifications because we're forced to see it anyways. CODE41 makes it very clear that the X41 contains fine watchmaking, which is done by a brand called Timeless Manufacture in Switzerland. They supposedly make all of the movement parts in-house except for the balance wheel, so it's only fair that I get to slap on my macro lens to see for myself. Some parts of the X41 are well finished with a combination of satin, matte, and polished surfaces, mostly on the blackened bridges. We also see Geneva stripes along the base, but I do feel that some areas, particularly near the keyless works, is a bit bland. If someone showed me the yoke or the setting lever alone, I wouldn't have thought it was hand finished, but this look may have been intentional since it does add to the industrial-like overall appearance. But something that I do know wasn't intentional, or hope wasn't intentional, is some of the dust that I found inside of the movement. In addition, since it was pointed out that the balance wheel was outsourced, I took a close look at the part and was quite disappointed by its finishing. But again, do keep in mind this is a prototype, so not all the details have been refined on this particular sample. As these issues have been informed to CODE41, I'm pretty sure that the production models will not have these problems. Look, I get it. Costs need to be saved, and manufacturing your own balance wheels and balance springs is stupid expensive. Like, ridiculously expensive. But quality control of outsourced parts and dust, especially at this price point, has to be tight. Even more so if fine watchmaking is going to be emphasized. Yet, the micro-engineering and architecture of the movement should not be overlooked. I mean, most brands use standard oscillating weights, which makes viewing the movement to be rather difficult. There are solutions like using a micro-rotor or switching over to hand wound completely, but the X41 decided to use its own different mechanism. This watch contains a peripheral oscillating weight, which allows for the automatic feature to be kept while allowing maximum visibility of the movement. Now this mechanism is more difficult to produce since more ball bearings are needed for the rotor. Opposed to having a few ball bearings for a small pivot like a traditional rotor, you now need bearings throughout the entire circumference. Inevitably, difficulty is introduced since more moving parts means more friction, which requires tighter regulation of tolerances. It's worth noting that poorly designed bearings would result in inefficient winding and noise, but for the X41, the noise is acceptable, not perfectly silent, but not super loud. With all that said, how does the watch keep time? Well, I reported an average of +5 seconds per day, and I say average because I tested it in 5 different positions. Dial up, down, crown up, down, and to the left. It could have been to the right. just sideways. Reason being is that CODE41 claims that their movement is adjusted to 5 different positions, so based on my test, I do believe that. It keeps great time and it doesn't have a lot of deviation despite what position I rested on. So how does it wear? Well, like I said, it's not a discreet watch by any means. It's large and makes a presence. Legibility is not an issue because there is enough contrast between the parts, especially this large grand date complication, which is far more interesting than a standard date wheel. The black numerals contrast well with the brush plate underneath, and the clear wheels are super cool to look at. Although this watch is big, it's not uncomfortable to wear, which is partially aided by a tapering bracelet. Also worth mentioning that it's easy to set due to its large crown, absent of any guards as well. Now prior to getting the X41 in hand, I already had a checklist made for areas that I wanted to spend more attention on. When viewing the CODE41 website, a big point is made on total transparency, showing where each component comes from and its respective cost. Assembly and movement are Swiss origin, but everything else is outsourced to China except for the leather strap. So it's easy to see where the costs are being saved via online and in person too. The case is made in China and the edges are pretty sharp, especially the milled portions on the side. Similar to jimping found in knives, it's not going to cut you, but it's also not comfortable to touch, except the jimping on knives is there for a purpose. The butterfly clasp is also made in China, and the two portions that meet do not sit flush with each other. You can clearly see that one half is sitting higher than the other. The bracelet itself does have quick release swing bars, so it is relatively easy to swap from the bracelet to the leather strap, but I would have really liked to see integrated end links. It almost feels like the bracelet is an aftermarket part due to the gap and strange lug pins. Screw links would have been nice, but there are plenty of brands that are using friction pins. You know that brand. We all know that brand. The entire bracelet is an area where costs are being saved. I do appreciate CODE41 providing the breakdown of all of the parts and costs because we can clearly see that the majority of the funds are being put into the movement. Without a doubt, the decision to go for a peripheral oscillating weight opposed to a standard rotor, the manufacturing of proprietary ball bearings for optimal performance, and opting for a grand date complication opposed to a single date wheel are clear indications that the blueprint of this in-house caliber was given tons of thought and effort. Of course, these features are not unheard of, but the fact that CODE41 went with the more difficult or out of the norm path demonstrates their willingness to stand out in a rather saturated market of repeated designs. Quality control cannot be overlooked, especially at this price point. Should probably not wave that around. So if CODE41 just ensures that the QC issues I've noticed on the prototype are not found on the production models, then the X41 will be a very solid offering because it does have a lot of potential. They also go as far as to offer a service guarantee even if the brand ceases to exist. The movements are built by timeless manufacturers who are not owned by CODE41, as they are a separate entity who produce calibers for other companies as well. This is super important because the fear of investing in a small brand is usually due to the inability to provide service if said brand no longer exists. When looking at the watch market as a whole, there's tons of designs that are just being repeated and offered over and over again. There aren't that many skeleton watches in this price bracket except for one, I forgot what it is, the Pro Pilot X by Oris, but it doesn't offer the same feature set as the X41 because for one, this is an automatic. So I hope this review helps the brand find out what areas that they could improve on, which is why I post reviews, because constructive criticism improves products, which boosts their sales, and for us, we get a better product in the end. Basically a win for everybody. So that's the review of the X41. I'll leave links in the description box below, and there's also a carbon fiber version of this available if you're into that type of flavor. I think it's 2 times lighter than the titanium version, so do go check that out. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video. So let's do the reading of comments, and before that, how do you guys like this angle opposed to the ones in the last few videos? I've been experimenting. I think this is also a pretty cool way to film, but more importantly, your boy finally got a haircut. Chewbacca no more. So my last video was on the Grand Seiko Blizzard review, which you can check out by clicking the link somewhere right there, I think. So the first comment is from Robert M. A bit strange seeing a loomless watch reviewed on a channel named Loomshot. I guess I didn't think that one through. You got me, Robert. Zane says, make a video on Apple Watch modification. I'll just stick to using their products. J. Renard Leather says, did you mean to leave in the swearing, or was that supposed to be an outtake? Also, I would love to see your photo, video, audio, and lighting setup. If you guys are interested, please continue to let me know, because the more feedback that I get from you, the more it becomes possible for me to make that video. BO2610 says, if I could choose between a free Rolex and a free GS, I would go for the GS for sure. I think the strength of GS fans versus Rolex fans are pretty much neck and neck. Henry Cole Stage says yes on the camera geek stuff. On today's video, we're going to check out the Fujifilm X100V. I love this camera. Grizzly Rumfast says Rolex wish they had this type of finishing. Do you? Smithy Ithy says I need a GS in my life. So do I, but I just bought a new camera and I am bro. Alex Palmer says, what a great video, keep them coming. Thumbs up for Timeless for sending you the watch to review. Yes, please go tell Timeless I sent you or give them feedback on the video because I do want to see more watches. Kinder Design Chateau. Fun fact, Zerasu is not a Japanese word with some elegant meaning. It is just the way they pronounce the name of the European manufacturer of this polishing machine. We've all been lied to. Shane Lee says, do a video on how to take great watch / macro shots, please. We could do something like Macro Monday, Photo Friday, Shutter Saturday, aperture. Wolf says the drop sound at the end made me flip.